Picture the scene: warm August haze rolling through Phoenix Park, cameras clicking like cicadas while Princess and strides across the gravel toward Aris and Yak terrain. No fuss, no flying aides fussing with skirts, just that trademark laser focus and a handshake so firm it makes seasoned diplomats wince. Irish President Michael D. Higgins welcomes her as though greeting an old comrade, and in a way he is, because the Princess Royal has been stitching diplomatic seams since long before some of those presspool rookies were born. Flashes pop, smiles lock, pens jot polite captions. But behind each polite grin lingers a secret only a handful of insiders dare whisper. This unstoppable workhorse of the monarchy has already circled a date in red ink, planning to throttle back at 80 and disappear from public life a decade later. 5 quick years until the first stage of departure, 15 until the silhouette vanishes entirely. For now, though, nobody in Dublin suspects anything. They only see the royal who logged more engagements last year than both the king and queen combined, the woman who can chat maritime regulations, agritech strategy and Shetland pony bloodlines without consulting a briefing note. Inside the state reception room she bypasses the canapé tray, asking instead for data on Irish rescue helicopter response times. By the time the Irish Press Office finally releases its stock photo, and has already toured a literacy hub in Ballymun, compared notes on regenerative farming with a Galway co-op leader and squeezed in a private call to Balmoral, checking on her brother's post-chemo energy levels before her next sprint. That call matters. Charles's illness has hung over the summer like a rain cloud, throwing extra weight on the few senior royals still willing and able to shoulder the load. And nobody shoulders quite like Anne. She's the emergency jumper cable the palace plugs in whenever the grid flickers. The Royal Dispatch riders swear her schedule reads like a logistical dare. 2 months ago she opened a lifeboat station in Cornwall at dawn, unveiled a carer's bursary in Worcester by lunch, then fronted a NATO symposium in Brussels before midnight. She wrote thank you notes on the Eurostar home, slept 4 hours, and showed up at a rural showground to present rosettes in a drizzle that turned most handbag royals to mush. So the King's personal birthday tribute, a gleaming £5 silver coin etched with Anne's uncompromising profile, felt more overdue than ceremonial. Collectors snapped it up, but staff in the Privy Purse knew the subtext. This is Charles's way of saying I see you, I know what you carry, and the realm sees it too. And blushed politely and went back to work. Yet even the hardest steel fatigues. Royal correspondent Roya Nicker, a journalist whose phone pings around the clock with Windsor intel, dropped the bomb on her own podcast, and has told staff to expect a measured wind down at 80 and a definitive curtain at 90. I want to step back completely were the words fed to Nicker, cold, clear, unretractable. Courtiers double-checked, thinking someone had misheard. They hadn't. The princess is charting her exit with the same stopwatch precision she applies to a rescue helicopter drill. Why does it matter? Because on paper the modern monarchy is slimming down, in practice, it leans harder on and then on any other spare. The Prince and Princess of Wales juggle preschool campaigns and global diplomacy but still need to be home for the school run. The Duke and Duchess of Edinburgh tidy up regional ribbons yet rarely command Anne-grade headlines abroad. Remove and the engagement roster sags like an old marquee in November rain. Some backbenchers whisper about recruiting light royals beyond the full-time core to plug the gap. But Charles promised the public a leaner firm. Turning that ship around would look suspiciously like backtracking. Complications ripple further. Charities that rely on the princess's magnetic pull worry donors will drift once her patronage badge retires. The carers trust credits and no-nonsense speeches for tens of millions in legacy gifts. Save the Children, which she steered since 1970, jokes that their event RSVPs plunge 20% whenever another royal substitutes as guest of honor. Multiply that across the 200-plus organizations stamped Princess Royal and you start counting influence in billions, not thousands. Friends insist the countdown is pragmatic, not defeatist. And watched her father, Prince Philip, hold the line until 96, but she also saw the toll, the wry jokes covering aching joints, the eyes that dulled after back-to-back engagements. She resists sentimentality. When the horse tires, you dismount before it collapses, she told a confidant after a physio session, but even she admits she wants to enjoy Gatcom's foaling season without scanning her watch. Rumour has it she keeps a tiny map of Scotland on her study wall, peppered with pins marking remote lighthouses she still hasn't inspected. Post-retirement bucket list, perhaps. Inside government, calculators are already tapping. If the princess scales back at 80, 2030, each of her 400-plus annual outings must be reallotted. Treasury officials, who love Charles's austerity script, realize they'll need either fresh bodies or fewer cut ribbons. Cultural councils bristle. Try telling a county show celebrating its 250th anniversary that a Zoom greeting from a junior Windsor equals an in-person visit by Anne. Westminster mandarins talk of hybrid tours, virtual walkthroughs pre-recorded by the princess while a local deputy unveils the plaque, but everyone knows the magic dims when the storyteller is a screen. The public, so far, half understands. Polls show 81% respect her right to slow down, 74% fear the monarchy will lose its hardest-working identity. Commentary ranges from pragmatic, she's done enough, let her rest, to pleading, just keep her until Andrew is fully retired and Harry's memoir cycle ends. That latter irony bites. While scandal magnet relatives drain goodwill, and produces it by the gallon. Losing that contrast feels strategically reckless. So what happens next? And refuses farewell tours or legacy documentaries. She will simply start trimming the diary, double bookings will become singles, long-haul flights pass to younger cousins, midnight speech drafting handed off to private secretaries. Expect a spike in local engagements rather than globetrotting, more equine welfare clinics, fewer Pacific Commonwealth reviews. She'll still be visible, just condensed, like a concentrated tonic only brought out when the headache is acute. Behind the scenes, the princess is quietly transferring institutional memory, training aides how to interrogate briefing papers, mentoring junior officers in their handshake, one firm pump, eye lock, move on, digitizing decades of field notes for successor royals she may never name. Zara and Peter joke their mother now treats Sunday lunch like a leadership seminar, bullet point wisdom about logistics, philanthropy, and the cardinal rule that a royal's hat must never block a war widow's view. When 80 finally dawns, insiders predict a soft-focus statement from the palace, gratitude, reassurance, a pledge that she will still champion her causes in new ways. But one royal equerry confides the princess may cap it with a line of her own, time to hand the baton forward, don't drop it. Classic and brisk, unsentimental, daring the next runner to match her stride. And somewhere in Phoenix Park, perhaps, President Higgins will reread the Dublin guestbook entry she signed, plain and above a flourish that looks suspiciously like galloping hooves, and smile at the memory of the day Ireland played host to a royal whirlwind who arrived at dawn, radiated purpose, and left behind both goodwill and a ticking clock whose final chime will echo far beyond Gatcombe's quiet paddocks. Feel the shock. Feel the tension. That's the sound of a monarchy realizing its indestructible backbone has already penciled a finish line. How does the firm fill a gap shaped like Princess Anne? Will Charles renegotiate austerity? Will William draft in reinforcements? Let us know in the comments, smash that like button, and subscribe because the countdown has begun, and every engagement she completes from here on out could be one of her last.